So everybody has their opinions about California, and very specifically when it comes to hunting and gun control in California. But let me give you a little bit of bright news, good news that's coming out of California. In April of 2024, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife came out with a brand new conservation plan update for black bears in the state of California. It's a dense 84-page document. The reason for the conservation plan update? Pretty simple. The last plan that got published was almost 2 decades ago, and things have changed. Lots more people in California, lots more bears in California, and they just needed a much more scientifically rigorous conservation plan for an iconic species like this. So what do you actually need to know about this? Number one, it's a good plan. Arguably a great plan. But there's obviously things that we would like to see change in it. There is a plethora of information tied to bears. Where they live, what they eat, all the bits and pieces that you would expect in a conservation plan tied to black bears. And it states 2 major goals. The first goal is to conserve black bears in abundance, with disease resilience in mind, with genetic diversity in mind, both statewide and regionally. And in order to do that, you have to protect its habitat. So, a great first goal. Second goal is really an all-encompassing, provide opportunities for hunting, for viewing, mitigating human wildlife conflict tied to black bears. As we just noted, a fatality has just occurred in California for the very first time ever, and naturally be inclusive of all Californians and their opinions tied to black bears. The second most important point that you need to know is that this management plan isn't changing anything. It's not changing any regulations, it's not changing any rules. So don't worry about what is going to happen with black bears in California. So point number 3 is that there's some really cool information around black bears. So when you're sitting around the dinner table the next time with people in your homes in California or wherever you sit, and they start talking about black bears and how limited they are and their populations are declining, and oh my God, can you believe that California actually has one of the largest populations of black bears in the lower 48, maybe only second behind Alaska? Yeah, that's true. So a little bit of history tied to black bears. In 2013, black bear hunting with dogs was disallowed, so hound hunting for black bears was disallowed in 2013. Ever since then, the quota that's been put in place has actually never been met. In fact, the harvest that used to be around 1,700 bears a year has dropped to about 1,200 bears a year. If you think of that quota as a ratio to the total population of black bears, that percentage is very, very low. Actually, when you do the numbers and you do the ratio, Californians are harvesting 3%, as estimated by the science, of the estimated population of black bears in the state of California. If you pressed on the science to ask, well, what is a conservative measure of sustainable harvest of black bears? The answer is about 15.9%. That means that California right now has a gap of about 12.9% in which it can work to ensure a continued sustained harvest as well as a sustainable population of black bears. I know we're all interested in densities, and the highest density of black bears actually not in California, is in New Jersey. But there are some incredible densities of black bears in California. 133 bears to 100 square kilometers. That's more than a bear a square kilometer on the west side of the Hooper Valley Reservation, and about 84 bears per 100 square kilometers in the Lake Tahoe Basin. So you're talking about areas that have more than 1 bear per square kilometer, and areas like Lake Tahoe that have a very interesting rural-urban interface that are close to having 1 bear per square kilometer. Given the science, there is an opportunity for an increase in hunting opportunities of black bears in the state of California that could possibly help reduce population and abundance of black bears in certain areas, as well as reduce human-wildlife conflict in certain areas. What you need to know, the general lay person listening to this, is that California Department of Fish and Wildlife has put together an extremely well thought out black bear management plan. Sure, there are places that we think it can be improved. Sure, there are places of information that need to be changed and corrected, but it is a purposeful management plan that does recognize the role that hunting can play in black bear management. I think the most important thing that I want to say, that we at Blood Origins want to say, is we want to say kudos. Kudos to you for taking such a based approach to black bear management. We absolutely stand behind you, and you should lean heavily on your science, on the great science that you've done to push back on anti-hunting sentiment around the sustainable management of black bears in the state of California. Keep up the great fight. We've got your back.